Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we'll be talking about Exit, Lord of the Rings, Shadows over Middle-earth. And this is designed by Inka and Marcus Brand, and it is published by Cosmos.
All right, you guys, we love escape room style games, but guess what? We also love Lord of the Rings. We are big Lord of the Rings fans. So when we heard that there was an Exit Lord of the Rings game, we were very interested in that.
Obvious matrimony for us.
For sure. Normally what happens is we would do a kind of a teach us a game, kind of show you guys how to play. I can't do that for this particular game for two reasons. First of all, this is an exit style game. What happens in those games is a lot of the components get destroyed as you're playing them. So I couldn't even show you the components if I wanted to. They're all destroyed. But second of all, it's an escape room style game. You don't want to have any spoilers in a game like this, so we will not show you how to play. I will kind of talk about a little bit of how the mechanisms work, though. Generally what's happening is there's 10 puzzles inside this game, and you're going to kind of go through these puzzles in sequential order. Each one's going to kind of get you to ultimately find a 3-digit code. There's a 3-digit code. You're going to enter that into this wheel, this decoder wheel thing. It's going to spit out an answer. And if you're right, then you get to progress to the next puzzle. That's basically kind of how all of these exit-style games work, but that's also true of this one. There's kind of helps along the way. You have 3 hints that you are able to have access to if you need them per puzzle. There's kind of a solution 1, which kind of makes you, or a hint 1, which kind of gets you in the right track. These are the components you need. Just get your thing in the right direction. A number 2 clue kind of gets you, kind of spells out like, okay, this is what you should be doing. And if you still can't get it after that, then there's a solution card that just tells you this is flat out the answer and this is how you should have gotten there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how this game works. You have 10 puzzles. You're working your way through them. If you're able to complete them all, you're going to get a score at the end based off how long it took and how many clues you had to use.
Okay, so this is not a spoiler, and I promise. So like Ryan said, you have all these clue cards, and the art for all the clue cards is Gandalf, and it follows the story of what happens in Lord of the Rings. And something happens to Gandalf, as I'm sure you all know, in Lord of the Rings, where he kind of like rebirths and becomes a different Gandalf, right? I mean, a better, like whatever. What you know? What
He was
I'm talking
Gandalf
about.
the Grey. He becomes Gandalf the White.
Yes. So in the game, the art for Gandalf changes to reflect that based on what happens in the game, and I really liked how in the instructions they were like, "This is not a clue. This is just making sense with what is happening in the story.
It's a thematic tie-in.
This has nothing to do with any of the clues. This isn't like we're not trying to trip you up. Okay, this is just for fun."
Because they really do use anything and everything as far as these exit games. Anything is fair game. So any little clue can be a clue. But that one wasn't. That was just a thematic.
It's not a clue. This is not a clue.
We talked about those help cards. I really appreciated having those. These puzzles are very, very abstract, right? And they also, because of how clever they are, they make you think in different ways. They use different parts of your brain. And so, for one thing, it's good to have, it says it plays 1 to 4 players. I like having, 3 or 4 players at the table that all kind of think in slightly different ways. That way you're able to approach these puzzles from different angles, and that helps out. But you know what? Even if you get to one of those puzzles and none of you have really cracked it yet, having those help cards along the way is really, really beneficial. Yes, it's going to affect your score, but it's worth it to make your enjoyment better.
Yeah.
What's the point of getting an A+ grade if you hated the entire time and were frustrated? Or even if you get an F but you had a great time. It's worth it.
And one of the nice things that's about the help cards is if the help it gives you is something you already knew, that actually doesn't count against your score. They're not going to punish you for looking at something when you already had that information. So that's just kind of nice that they have that. This typically happens, I feel like, for me in exit games. There's always like 1 or 2 puzzles that I feel like not that I feel like they weren't necessary, but I like when you try to make your brain do different things, but sometimes you do something that's right here and you're literally right here. And this definitely happened in this game. And it's really frustrating when that happens, and not a ton of fun frustrating. You guys know that I love fun frustration. Like, I talk about that as a positive aspect in games all the time. And this, there was 1 or 2 puzzles where that just didn't happen. We're like right there.
We have all the pieces of information we need to advance. We did what they wanted us to do.
Exactly.
But getting input in the right way or whatever.
We did exactly what the game asked, but it was just like shifted. It was just off. And like when you finally figure it out and you do it and knowing you were there the whole time, it was just, it wasn't like a fun, like, oh, that's how they did it. It's like, that's what we were doing type of thing. And so there were 1 or 2 puzzles that I felt that for this.
I will say thematically, this was a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, we talked about how we are Lord of the Rings fans, and that played in perfectly to our fan base and our knowledge of the universe and all of that kind of stuff. You are not part of the Fellowship of the Ring. You're a character kind of on the outside of the peripheral, kind of helping behind the scenes, helping do little things so that way it doesn't affect the canon of the story of Lord of the Rings at all. So I thought that was really fun. You're kind of in the shadows. That's why it's called Shadows over Middle-earth, because you're just kind of just lurking behind them, following them and helping them along the way in any way that you can. The puzzles all made sense thematically as well, or at least most of them did, where it made sense of what you're doing and why you were doing it. So on top of that, to even further your experience, there's Cosmos has an app that has like basically all of their games, their entire library that you can go to that. First of all, it kind of teaches you the game. Then on top, it has a timer, which you need a timer in this game, and it plays background music that matches the theme. So in this case, it's playing like the Lord of the Rings theme music as you're playing. It's got the background tavern noises and stuff like that match up with what's happening within the game itself. So if you're playing this, I definitely recommend using the app. It was a lot of fun.
If you are a Lord of the Rings fan, this is kind of a no-brainer game for you, right? And it's not even anything that's going to take up a lot of shelf space, because once you play it, you're over it. Like, you've messed up the components like you're supposed to. This is definitely something, I don't know if any of you out there do this. In fact, let me know in the comments below if any of you have done anything like this. But Ryan and I, probably about like once every other year, like to do a Lord of the Rings day where we watch all 3 of the extended movies in one day with themed foods. And sometimes what we like to do is split up in between the movies and do a different activity, like go disc golfing or play a game. And I feel like that this would be a perfect thing to pair with that, right? One thing to split up the day with to play this game. It would just fit perfectly with this. So for me, it kind of feels like if you're a huge Lord of the Rings fan, this is just like something you're gonna have. Yeah,
I agree. I love escape room style games. If you're an escape room fan, this is just another great entry into the Exit series. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan, I think you're gonna dig it. If you're both, definitely check it out. Overall, we enjoyed this one, but we don't do this box anymore though.
Okay. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.